An anonymous email. A woman in a cage. A remote cabin deep in the Missouri woods. What investigators found next was so disturbing that even seasoned detectives struggled to process it. This is the story of Cassidy Rainwater and the secrets hidden on Moon Valley Road. Dallas County, Missouri is a quiet rural area filled with dense forests, gravel roads, and isolated homes tucked deep into the woods. It's the kind of place where people keep to themselves and where someone could disappear without anyone noticing for days. This remote landscape becomes central to the story of Cassidy Rainwater, a woman whose disappearance would uncover something far darker than anyone expected. Cassidy Rainwater was born on June 9, 1988, and grew up in the Lebanon, Missouri area. She was outgoing, funny, and full of life, the kind of person who lived loudly, loved deeply, and laughed often. She attended Harrison Hill High School, where she met the father of her first child. Her first child was later adopted by family members. And over the years, Cassidy became a mother of 6, Aiden, Alexis, Gracie, Marley, Parker, and Jack. Cassidy loved writing poetry and singing, talents she developed from a young age. But as an adult, she faced difficult challenges. She struggled with homelessness and instability, yet she was determined to rebuild her life. In July 2021, she was staying with a man named James Phelps, someone she believed was helping her. But after July, no one heard from her again. Her family reported her missing in late August. A friend told police she hadn't seen Cassidy for 6 weeks. When deputies first visited Phelps' remote property on Moon Valley Road, September 1st, he told them Cassidy had been staying with him temporarily. He claimed she left suddenly in the middle of the night, got into a vehicle at the end of the driveway, and disappeared. He said she had talked about going to Colorado. But detectives noticed something strange. The loft where Cassidy had supposedly been staying looked stripped, no clothes, no bags, no belongings. Nothing to suggest she had ever lived there. Still, without evidence, they couldn't take action. Everything changed on September 16, 2021. That's when the FBI received an anonymous message. No name, no explanation, just a set of photographs and a claim that they had been found on the dark web. The images showed a woman who appeared terrified, partially nude, and locked inside a cage. The sender said the woman was Cassidy Rainwater. The FBI immediately forwarded the tip to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office. Investigators acted fast. They obtained a search warrant for James Phelps' cell phone, and what they found confirmed the anonymous tip was real. On his phone were 7 photos of Cassidy in the same cage taken on his property. To this day, the identity of the tipster has never been revealed. No one knows how they found the images, why they sent them, or whether more photos existed. But that single anonymous message was the reason investigators discovered what had happened to Cassidy, and the reason the case broke open at all. Detectives also identified a second man connected to the property, Timothy Norton, a long-haul truck driver who often lived in his truck. He was interviewed on September 19th, but his story didn't match the evidence. The next day, he was brought back in, and this time he confessed. Norton admitted that on July 24th, Phelps called him to help restrain Cassidy. He went to the property and assisted. He also admitted he knew Cassidy was being held in a cage. His confession confirmed that Cassidy had been alive and held captive, and that Phelps was not acting alone. Both men were arrested. They were charged with kidnapping, abandonment of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and inflicting injury. The community was shaken. Rumors spread quickly, especially because authorities released very few details. October 4th, less than 24 hours before Phelps' next court appearance, something shocking happened. The home on Moon Valley Road, the same property where Cassidy Rainwater had been held, suddenly went up in flames. Fire crews from multiple stations rushed to the scene, working late into the night to put out hotspots. But as they moved through the debris, a Dallas County deputy noticed something strange. A wire stretched across the ground, positioned in a way that looked deliberate. A possible trip wire. The discovery was serious enough that the Springfield Bomb Squad was called in. They arrived around 1:30 in the morning, and shortly after they located a suspicious device near the burned structure. The bomb squad detonated the device on site. A later report from the Missouri State Fire Marshal classified the fire as second-degree arson. Investigators found not one, but two incendiary devices on the property, both attached to tripwires. The devices were homemade, constructed from mortar tubes, balloons, and coiled fuses, resulting in $40,000 in damage. And here's the part that raised even more questions. Both James Phelps and Timothy Norton were already in jail when the fire happened. To this day, investigators have not said who set the fire, when the devices were placed, or whether the intention was to destroy evidence or harm anyone who came looking. The silence surrounding the fire only deepened the mystery of what was really happening on Moon Valley Road. As the investigation unfolded, the Dallas County Sheriff's Office released very few updates. They did not explain the fire, the tripwires, or the explosive device found on the property. They also did not confirm details about Cassidy's remains for weeks. This silence left the community anxious and frustrated. Residents felt they were being kept in the dark, and rumors began to spread. Theories about dark web activity, additional suspects, and hidden evidence. The lack of information only deepened the fear surrounding Moon Valley Road. In a disturbing twist, Cassidy's mother had also disappeared years earlier. Her remains were found near Lebanon, not far from Moon Valley Road. No arrests were ever made in her mother's case. The proximity of both tragedies led many to wonder whether something darker had been happening in this rural region for far longer than anyone realized. A spiritual group located near the area became part of community speculation. Some described them as harmless. Others saw them as strange or secretive. There is no confirmed connection to Cassidy's case, but their presence added to the sense of mystery and unease surrounding the region. After the fire on October 4th, both James Phelps and Timothy Norton appeared in court via video from the Dallas County Jail. No bond was requested, and their preliminary hearings were set for November 5th. The courtroom was filled with community members desperate for answers, but investigators remained tight-lipped. Investigators eventually found human remains on James Phelps' property. DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to Cassidy Rainwater. According to authorities, Cassidy had been killed and dismembered, and parts of her remains were discovered in a rural area of Dallas County. This discovery allowed prosecutors to upgrade the charges against both Phelps and Norton to first-degree murder. In April 2023, James Phelps entered an Alford plea, a legal move where he did not admit guilt, but acknowledged that the evidence against him would likely lead to a conviction. This plea allowed him to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. 2 months later, on June 27, 2023, Timothy Norton pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. He also received life without parole. His plea confirmed that he helped restrain Cassidy, knew she was being held in a cage, and participated in the events that led to her death. Because both men accepted plea deals, there was no public trial. Evidence was not presented in open court. Witnesses were not cross-examined. Investigators were not required to reveal the full timeline. Many details remain sealed. This is why so many questions remain unanswered. Even after sentencing, key questions remain. Who set the fire? When were the tripwires installed? Were others involved? Were the dark web rumors true? What evidence did the FBI recover? What exactly happened to Cassidy between July 24th and the discovery of the photos? Because the case ended in plea deals, these details may never be released. More than 3 years after her death, Cassidy Rainwater's family is finally laying her to rest. Family and friends took part in a memorial service to remember Rainwater. Several of her children spoke, sharing happy memories and saying she was taken too soon. Think about the memories and just how great they were. She always loved the river. It was her favorite place. I remember her always singing to me as a baby. She was a great person. She was the hardest working mom that I've ever known, and I'm so proud of her. And I wish she could know that today, said Aiden Eisenbeis, Rainwater's son. Cassidy Rainwater deserved safety, stability, and a chance to rebuild her life. Instead, she crossed paths with 2 men who exploited her vulnerability. And while her killers will spend the rest of their lives behind bars, the silence surrounding this case, the fire, the tripwires, the dark web rumors, leaves behind a shadow of unanswered questions. This is a case that still haunts Missouri. And for Cassidy's family, the search for truth continues. This story is a difficult one, and if you or anyone you know is in a dangerous situation or needs help, please reach out. You can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline or your local law enforcement. Your safety is important. Thanks for watching.